What's up, guys? It's Lord Botha here, back with another video, and today is unfortunately our episode 4 review of the Acolyte, finally. We're going to go through this pretty briefly. I'm going to try to keep the pain as short as possible, although I don't know if I'll be successful. Let's see. We open up on Kofar, another bullshit forest world that Wookiee seem to be fond of. And how do we know that? Because Master, I think his name is Baraka or whatever shit, they show us another scene of him living in the woods, because we didn't get that from the end scene of the last episode that we saw. And the scene they decide to spend significant amount of time on in the opening is just showing him cooking dinner, chopping something up to cook dinner. I don't know why they chose to do this. There doesn't seem to be that much point to the scene other than to show some strange carvings on stones in his hut. What do those carvings mean? We'll never know, because they never go back to them in the entire episode. We then cut to Sol's Padawan training with fake swords in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. And we know it's the Jedi Temple on Coruscant because not only do they show the whole city of Coruscant, and they show the massive Jedi Temple that is iconic and we've known and seen since the prequel movies, but they also put up a big name, Coruscant, to let us know that it is Coruscant, even though they did this earlier in the series too. Again, why are we repeating ourselves? And they really do think we're just that dumb, don't they? Conveniently, the lesson ends pretty quickly, and then Sol's Padawan goes over to Osha, where Osha tells her that she's leaving because she's done what she's need to do here, and that her sister May is the Jedi's problem now. It's pretty dismissive and pretty weird, especially considering the fact that we put so much emphasis on the last episode that she wants to be part of her sister's apprehension, that it's a big deal to her, and that she has very strong emotions about her sister and the death of her family and all that. There's also a slight whiff of gayness when Osha says to the Padawan, "Why, you're not going to miss me, are you?" They won't go far enough to make them obviously into each other, but they won't not give subtleties, and I don't know. We then cut to a scene of May and the Asian apothecary dude walking through the forests of Kofar. They're searching for the Wookiee Jedi, and apparently the apothecary knows the way because he's explored this forest planet before in search of the Wookiee Jedi, even though he himself describes the planet as extremely dangerous, so much so that bounty hunters have refused to go onto the planet's surface. When May asks why he's done this, he said, "Well, I did it for you." So essentially the apothecary is a confirmed simp. He found the Wookiee Jedi because he's simping for May. They then trot off into the forest to find the Wookiee Jedi. It's then that we get the opening title shot of Acolyte. That's right, they've had 3 drastically different scene changes in the first minute and 10 seconds of the show before putting the title up. We're then in a conference room, apparently, in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. It's weird, I half expected them to show the Jedi Temple again and throw up the word Coruscant to let us know that, because, of course, the audience for the show is so fucking dumb that we don't know that it's Coruscant, right? In this conference room around the holotable, the masters are all discussing how dangerous May is. Yeah, no shit, why are we talking about this? This is another case of we're discussing something that's already been shown. The best part of this scene, and I really did laugh out loud when I saw this, they talk about May and say that she's already killed 2 Master Jedi and in search for the other 2 to kill. And then they throw up the portraits of the Wookiee Jedi and the other 2 Jedi that are dead on the holotable, and the 2 that are dead, their portraits are redded out while the Wookiees is blue. It's oh gee, thanks for reminding us and letting us know they're dead with this color change. I wouldn't have known that they were the ones that were killed by the previous episodes. I'm sure all the masters didn't know that they were the 2 Jedi masters that were killed and needed them to be redded out to make sure that point was driven through for emphasis. Also, Jedi Master Coyote Mundi is there. There's already been a lot of discussion online about how he shouldn't be there because according to how, time works and age, he would have been, not born yet. Apparently, Star Wars Theory was watching in real time as Wikipedia was retconning Coyote Mundi's Wikipedia page and like apparently his race's page to change how long they live and all that to make it all make sense. There's also the fact that he's gonna learn that a Sith is the one who trained May. There's also the fact that Coyote Mundi is going to learn that it is a Sith that trains May, right? In the prequels, he specifically is the one that says that the Sith haven't been around in a millennia. So like he's lying? I don't quite understand. Venestra is back, of course, leading this conversation, and I would be stupid not to point out that her acting is considerably more wooden in this episode. Like, worse than the previous episodes that she was in. It's bad. She doesn't emote very well. She goes from either looking irritated to looking like she has no emotion at all. That's pretty much the two emotes that she has. Also, her body looks like weird and blobbish in the robes that she has. I've seen the woman, not in those Jedi robes. She doesn't look terrible. She's fit. I don't know why the robes that they gave her are so not fitting well and weird. But it's decided at this meeting that the Jedi, who are the guardians of, truth and justice, they decide that they are going to lie to the High Council and not tell them about May and what she's done, and that they're going to try to find May and bring justice to her on their own to avoid further, larger scandal. This just flies in the face of everything that the Jedi are supposed to represent and be, and they're really just hammering it home that they want to be subversive to the Jedi Order. They want to break down the Jedi Order and make it something that's inherently evil instead of something that's inherently good. Sol decides to go after Osha then because he realizes that having her on the team, he can use her as bait essentially to draw out her sister. I also want to point out another props problem. The hair extensions on Sol in this episode look absolutely awful. You can absolutely tell where his real hair is and where the fake hair begins, and you can literally like outline it. You can outline it on his head where his real hair is. It just looks bad. Why can't they just let him have real normal short hair? Why can't they just let him have the hair that he has when he's supposed to be young, okay? They were okay with May and Osha having the same goddamn hairstyle, even though they're twins and completely separate people that haven't seen each other since they were kids. Why can't he just have the same hair from when he was young? We then get a scene of Asian apothecary dude and May walking through the mountain line and the forest trying to find the Wookiee Jedi. They're having discussion again about how to kill Jedi with a weapon or without a weapon, all that bullshit. They're having a discussion about her master and the demands of her Sith master, etc., etc. The one thing I got out of this scene was that the Sith master is definitely going to be a woman. They put way too much emphasis on calling the Jedi master he and him, and pronouns are important to these people. They think it will be a shocking and subversive twist if they give the Sith Master a low growling mechanical voice and put him in the suit and the helmet and all that, and then they make it turn out to be a woman after everybody thinks it's a man. But it's not. It's not going to be shocking at all, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of her moms. There have been leaks apparently that have come out recently and said that the apothecary dude is actually the Sith Master. Maybe that's what everybody's saying. I'm not too sure still. We'll have to see into the actual episode, but if that was him, that'd be pretty obvious and kind of disappointing. Not that obvious and disappointing isn't the middle name of these showrunners. Sol then catches up to Osha, and she needs essentially zero convincing to get her to join the crew again, even though she knows and states that he's essentially using her as bait to draw out May. Again, this is super weird because literally like 5 minutes ago she was saying, my sister is the Jedi's problem now, and I've done what I need to do and find my sister and all that. Which is it then? Which is it? Is it she's the Jedi's problem now, I don't care, or it's I got to help stop my sister because it's important and it's a problem and it's bigger than me and all that? But which is it? So Sol departs with Osha and a bunch more Jedi, including his Padawan and Yord. I don't know what happened to Yord's Padawan. He had a Padawan. She's been fucked anywhere for like the entire last 3 episodes. But they're all on this ship bound for Gofar. Kofar. Kofar. I gotta get this right. I gotta say, it is nice to see that the Jedi have finally decided that May is enough of a threat after killing 2 Jedi Masters to send more than just 3 Jedi and a defunct Padawan after her. That is nice that they're like, oh, maybe we should send like a whole complement of Jedi to like apprehend her because she's like, actually dangerous. There's also this strange sentient creature on board, an otter man. At least he looks like an otter. This is where we get the infamous pronouns thing in the 4th episode. It's really not that big a deal if I'm being honest. It's a little thing where Osha comes up to Sol's Padawan and is like, hey, what's up with this creature? Is he or they? And that's pretty much it. Like that, she just says that, makes it clear that she doesn't know what his pronouns are. We do get confirmation later that Otterman is a he because Yord does call him he later on in the show. Just in case anyone was wondering if Otterman had an innie or an outie and wore pants. But apparently Otterman is a tracker and he's being brought along to sniff the Wookiee out. And they literally give him a piece of clothing that the Wookiee wore to sniff him out. That must be years old, by the way, so I don't know how effective that is going to be. I guess Wookiees stink that bad, even though Top Knot Wookiee looks like he keeps good care of himself, or at least he used to when he was involved with the Order more. When they first arrive on the planet, too, there's this weird tension thing where Yord sees Osha still has the blaster, the stun blaster or whatever, that she got from like episode 2, and he's like, oh, you need to turn that over, and she's like, nah, I think I'll keep it, and he's like, well, that's property of the Republic and the Jedi, and you need to turn it over, and then they have an intense stare. I don't know why are they still trying to like push this like tension and adversarial behavior between Yord and Osha, because like I thought this should be resolved by now in just normal human behavior, right? Like he should realize that like Osha isn't really a threat, and she should realize, oh, he's just looking out for the best of the Order, right? And he's there to help. We then get more walking scenes of Sol, Osha, and the rest of the crew while Otterman tries to sniff out the Wookiee. And I have to say, the long shots of the CGI woods and backgrounds and all that look terrible. They look like obvious green screens. I'm talking like early 2000s. It's bad. How the shit did they produce something so bad on a $180 million budget? And we get multiple walking shots this entire episode. It's a lot of walking. People make fun of the Lord of the Rings and say, oh, it's just a story about a bunch of guys walking. Well, this literally is an episode mostly of a bunch of people walking. We get scenes of May and the apothecary walking through the woods. We get scenes of Osha, Sol, and the Jedi walking through the woods. Every second of this show is about $10,000 to $12,000. So every walking scene, every prolonged stare you see, thousands of dollars. Why? You think they would give us at least more action-filled content if they were going to make something cost such amount of money every second. We get this scene where they're coming upon these like rotten trees in the woods, and it turns out these bugs are latched onto the tree and they're asleep or something like that. And Sol is all like, we shouldn't be here, we need to move quickly. So they all go and walk quickly off, and then for some reason Osha turns into a stereotypical 1980s woman character. She just needs to touch something she's not supposed to touch. She puts her hand on one of the little alien things that's curled up, and then it disappears and comes back a few seconds later, flying as a giant bug through the woods to come attack all of them. We then get a pointless 3-second monster fight where Sol cuts the monster flying at them literally in half of his lightsaber, and like that's it. That's it. That's the whole monster fight. By the way, why is there giant flying moth monsters in these tall, tree-dense woods? That doesn't make any sense at all. That doesn't seem like the kind of habitat that would sustain those kinds of creatures. I don't know how. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Then there's, you guessed it, more walking. Except on this walk, Osha and Soul's Padawan decide that they're going to share feelings because, they're women. They do a lot of that this episode, walking and sharing feelings, because that's what Star Wars has become now. That is the feminization of Star Wars. It's now Star walking and sharing feelings. They have some philosophical conversation about loss and whatever that, and basically Osha feels guilty about waking up that monster, and now that it's dead, even though it was a monster that was going to fucking kill them. But Soul's Padawan says something interesting during this. She says, "We are not defined by what we lose. We are defined by what we survive." Now, I thought that was a very interesting quote to be used in a series produced by someone like Leslie Headland. Leslie, I bet there were a lot of people who lost something to your boss that they could never get back, and you were just turning a blind eye to, maybe. I bet a lot of people had to survive some certain antics by your former employer that you may or may not had a hand in fixing up their scheduling and their hotel meetings or something like that. Of course, all of this allegedly. We don't know anything. We then cut back to May and the apothecary walking, and apparently they've not just been walking, they've been running. May's super tired and she wants to take a rest, and she's all like, "I gotta fight a Wookiee after this, I need my rest, I can't just be running." And the apothecary is all like, alright, I guess. May starts to go on about how this isn't a test, it's a final lesson, and it's about killing somebody who's defenseless. I don't know, it was all weird. They couldn't clearly pick what philosophical point they were trying to make, so it just all sounded like gobbledygook that I couldn't figure out what point they were really trying to make. I also, at this point, might have not actually cared what philosophical point they were trying to make, because I knew it was either going to be A, bad, or B, make no sense. This would also be a good place to point out that this is another episode where yet another error and fault of previous episodes is more glaring in this one. This specifically is Amandala's acting ability. She is extremely wooden. She can barely emote at all. Her face barely changes no matter what her emotions are the entire episode, whether she's playing May or Osha. She doesn't give us any real emotions or understanding what the characters are feeling or why we should care, right? Another thing that's more glaringly wrong this episode is that the entire set props look just bad. The rocks look shiny and plastic. The foliage looks silk and fake. None of it feels alive. None of it feels real. You can just tell that it's all fake. But during all this, apparently May has an epiphany while she was running through the woods, because apparently she's Forrest fucking Gump. She traps the apothecary when he comes back from trying to get her water, because again, he's a simp. And then she pops out to tell him that she doesn't have to do this anymore and she's quitting. She's going to go turn herself into the Jedi, and that she knows a secret that's going to essentially be powerful enough that it's going to beat her murder charges. That's wild to me. It must be something phenomenal. We'll see how that defense goes down in the Court of the Jedi. Apparently, again, May just decided out of nowhere that she wasn't going to be evil anymore, because that's how character development works to these showrunners. We don't need any real growth or change or anything like that. We just need a switch, a change, right? May just went for a little exercise in the woods and she came back a completely different person. She says her loyalty is to her sister now. Her sister, that she thought was dead until recently. That she also has to either thought she was dead or didn't care enough to find her. Also, she tells her entire plan to the apothecary, who is an agent of the Sith. Why would she reveal her entire plan in this, evil Bond villain monologue? Wouldn't she think that he maybe try to get free or has some way to communicate to the Sith Master in case of emergency, where he could tell the Sith Master all of this? Doesn't she think that's at least a possibility? We then cut to the Jedi and Osha walking through the woods again. And apparently, Osha is revealing to Master Soul that she's starting to regain her connection to the Force. Just at the same time, Otterman accidentally runs into May. Otterman alerts everyone that May is around, and May takes off running, and she quickly finds the hut of the Wookiee Jedi Master. And of course, May goes in and she asks for the Wookiee Jedi Master, shouting his name, "Where is he?" And she finds that he's dead, slashed with what looks to be a lightsaber. Now this is a deadly lightsaber slash, even though it looks very surface and not very deep. And this is not to be confused with the lightsaber piercings that are not lethal unless they need to be lethal. So don't get it confused. This one was a lethal kill, unlike some lightsaber strikes that are, not lethal. Then, of course, Soul and the rest of the Jedi with Osha, they come along to the cabin as well. And they're like, "May, you need to come out." And they surround it and all that. And just then, the Sith arrives. And it's made very apparent that the Sith is OP. He's definitely overpowered. Right? Because all the Jedi start charging towards the Sith, and the Sith just pushes them back with a strong force push. Apparently, it was the Sith that killed Master, I think, Kalnaka, or whatever the fuck the Wookiee's name is again. That's right, he killed the Wookiee Jedi Master off screen. The Wookiee Jedi Master shown to be the most competent and well-performing of the three Jedi Masters when it comes to use of the Force, who was built up to be this huge novelty thing, right? He doesn't even get a fight scene, he gets killed off screen. Apparently, they were supposed to actually have a fight scene with him in it, but it got cut because of budget issues. Because this show didn't have enough budget to do one lightsaber fight, even though, again, it had a $180 million budget. We got a huge-ass lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader that canonically shouldn't have taken place on a $90 million budget for a show. So why couldn't we fit a lightsaber battle between this Wookiee and some random Sith in a $180 million show? I don't understand. It, again, $10,000 to $12,000 a second to give us a show of people walking in the woods this entire episode. Why? Make it make sense. I guess they blew their budget on all the kung fu fights because Star Wars is well known for its kung fu fights. There is a scene in this episode when May is in the Wookiee hut and the Jedi are surrounding it, where she looks through a crack in the door, then pulls back, looks around the room, takes a deep breath, then looks back through the crack in the door, and it takes about 10 seconds. Remember, $10,000 a second. Could we not have the scene of her looking through the crack in the door and gotten a scene with a lightsaber fight? That I would trade that if that's okay. But anyway, this has been your excruciatingly painful, at least for me, to watch, review of episode 4 of The Acolyte. What does this show do right? Pretty much nothing. What does it do wrong? Almost everything. But those are just my thoughts. If you guys have your own thoughts, feel free to leave them in the comments section. If you did like this video, I recommend that you like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, I appreciate you listening to all of it, and we'll talk to you again later.